All right, the college football season is right around the corner, and I wanted to go into why the Ohio State Buckeyes for this season, it's a must-win. And the reason I say that is because if you look around at the rosters in the College Football League this year, you could make a point that Georgia has a really solid roster. They have one of the better quarterbacks. I'm pretty sure he's projected to go number one, the Georgia quarterback. But in my opinion, Ohio State has the best roster in college football next year. And I think that defensively it's not close. And I think that you could really make a debate that it's one of the better rosters in the past 10 years. You really could make this debate. Defensively, without a question. Defensively, it's one of the most complete rosters I've ever seen. You kind of go through it, and in my opinion, they have three holes. This Ohio State offense has three holes. And it's only offensively, as I just said. Defensively, really, I don't see any flaw. They have every position just covered, stacked. Caleb Downs is going to be a monster. You have so many interior guys like Jack Sawyer, JTT, just such a high volume of players. Denzel Burke, such a good corner. But you go into the offense, and this is what you have offensively. You have probably a first-round pick at wide receiver in Emeka Egbuka. You have a lot of other really talented wide receivers. You have the generational freshman in Jeremiah Smith, who will probably be the number 3. Cardinal Tate, people forget how good he was over at IMG Academy. He had a decent moments last year in kind of a competitive wide receiving core. And he's a really solid player. I'm excited about Cardinal Tate. And then you have a bunch of other 5 stars at wide receiver. So they're wide receiver, stacked. Running back, they probably have the 2 best running backs in college football. You have Henderson, Judkins. Judkins rushed for over 1,000 yards. Henderson, we know what, if you're an Ohio State fan, you know what he can do. Just quick bursts of speed. First game as a true freshman, took in an 80-yard touchdown or something like that. You knew he was going to be special. Never did I think he would stay 4 years. But due to injuries and limitations, that's what ended up happening. But the 3 holes that I find on this offense are, and for the majority, it's me nitpicking, because I'm going to nitpick the heck out of this team. But you have the problem at O-line that you had last year, but to the credit of the O-line, they got a little bit better. They brought in Alabama Seth MacFarlane. Some of their younger guys are getting older. They're having more experience, more age. So I think they'll turn it around. They'll improve. It helps having 2 of the best running backs in the league as well right behind you. But I think they'll pick it up and they'll improve. Then you have the tight end issue. It's really nitpicky, but you really don't have a reliable tight end this year. Obviously, Cade Stover had a lot of pretty good production last year, if you really think about it. Quite a few touchdowns, was pretty good red zone player for Ohio State last year. Huge middle threat. But you have a guy in G. Scott Jr. who's been there for several years. He's more of an athletic tight end. I think they'll be fine. Like I said, it's me nitpicking. That's not going to cost them from winning any big games. The biggest issue I have is a quarterback. And like I said, I like Will Howard's game. I think that it shows a lot when you can go to a school like Kansas State and you can have the amount of production that he did. And I'm not saying it was great production, but I was saying it was good enough production to where they won the Big 12 championship 2 years ago. So you would think from the metrics that if you transfer that over to Ohio State with all these weapons, that he would be an unbelievable player, have a Heisman Pertence level year within his numbers alone. But you just don't know yet. And obviously you have Devin Brown. They haven't named started yet. You have Devin Brown. Problem I have with Devin Brown is if you put him in, even if he looks good, if he gets hurt, it's going to scramble everything around. So the quarterback thing kind of worries me a little bit. But if you're looking outside of that, this is an unbelievable roster. Unbelievable roster. And you're just getting a lot of breaks in situations this year that they have to win. Like Michigan, it's going to be a down year for them. I'm saying it right here, right now. For all those people who think there's a shot, there's not one. Ohio State will beat Michigan this year in that game, and it will not be particularly close. Michigan is in not a rebuild, but they're in somewhat of a rebuild. They lost a lot of key people, the majority of their defense, several O-linemen. I think they lost their entire O-line. And their you factor their coach. They're not going to be that great. They have a really tough schedule. They're going to be beaten up. So kind of get that out of the factor. And other than that, you have to kind of look at Ohio State's schedule. It's a weaker schedule. Akron week 1, Western Michigan, Marshall, 3 easy wins, 3 easy non-conference. Michigan State, who's kind of become a cupcake, that's another easy win. Then you have Iowa, who, respectable team, but the problem with Iowa, everybody knows the problem with Iowa. They have a passable defense and they have a terrible offense. Terrible offense. When they match up against any team that's actually somewhat relevant, they get the doors kicked in. And that's what's going to happen in this game. But then you have the big test where they go to Oregon. Now, the Oregon game, I think that Oregon's a really good team. Oregon is probably, in my rankings, probably number 4 going into this year. Could be even better than Texas, who's my number 3. But I think that Ohio State can get this job done in this game. I don't think they need to win this game, but it would be a big statement if they're able to win this. This is most likely the rematch in the championship game, but you never know. And it's in Eugene, Oregon. But you got to remember, back in the day, Oregon just about 3 years ago came into the Horseshoe, beat the Buckeyes. So there might be a sour taste in Ryan Day's mouth, and maybe they'll get it done. Nebraska, easy win. Penn State, though, you got to go to Penn State, to Happy Valley, and they got a really solid quarterback there at Penn State. They've just had their number time and time again. I think it's a closer game than we think, but I think they get them again. When Ohio State's better this year, like Ohio State has beaten them in years where they even weren't better. Like the years that they had, the 1 year that they had Barkley, they were able to beat. I just don't see with Ohio State being better. I don't see them losing to Penn State. For them to lose to Penn State again, I think it would have to be a situation where Penn State is just better than them, and even that might not be enough. Purdue, cupcake. Northwestern, that game's going to be at Wrigley Field. Going to be a cool game to watch, but it's going to be like a 56-0 kind of performance there. Indiana, everybody knows that's going to be an easy game. Then you got the big game against Michigan, and like I said, I don't think it's going to be relatively close. Michigan's got a very tough schedule, and they're in somewhat of a rebuild. And it's at the Shoe, so I don't see that being very close. And you look at it, and you look at the schedule, and you're like, okay, they can only possibly lose 2 games, in my opinion. So that's a playoff team. It's just the fact that, for me, why it's a must-win is I don't know that they're going to get a roster like this ever again. I don't know if they're going to get a shot like this ever again to this magnitude, to this level of shot. Because people are high on Georgia. We really don't even know how good Georgia is. There's a lot of players defensively that they lost. They're good, sure. But I don't think – you got to understand, Ohio State retained their pretty much entire defense from last year, which was a top 3 defense. It's ridiculous. You can point at big losses. The defense held against Michigan. The defense wasn't the problem against Missouri. In those games, the defense was never the problem. The defense was the strong suit of Ohio State last year, and they returned everybody, and they got better by adding Caleb Downs. That's scary. That's insanely scary. And if you look at it, it's like if Will Howard's passable, if the O-line buckles up a tiny bit, it should be like a mop the floor kind of thing, where teams really shouldn't be close. So yeah, anything short of a national championship this year is a failure. If Ryan Day does not at least get to the title game, there should be huge questions. Huge questions. Like, even if they go undefeated and they go into that first bowl game and they don't win, the questions on his coaching job should be huge. This is one of the better rosters I've seen. You cannot go in there and you just can't choke at this point. And that's why these are the years that freak me out right here. These are the years as an Ohio State fan that I feel uncomfortable around, because there's that optimism, there's that excitement. It's a really good team. If they lose, it's just going to be crushing. It's just going to be crushing if they do. But I think they have all the tools to do it. I think that this is a team that's been just forged through losses after losses. And if you look at it, their class, they haven't really won much of anything. The only thing that this class has won is that one Rose Bowl, and that's it. And they were all freshmen. A lot of them didn't play and have like a big role within it. So no gold pants, never beaten Michigan, no Big Ten championship, just that Rose Bowl their freshman year. So If you look at this class, they haven't won anything. They've been forged by hardship. I think Ohio State has a really solid shot this year to win the national championship. And if you look at their schedule, you look at the breakdown of it, it's a must-win, in my opinion. Let me know what you think.